Welcome to Streams of Income, hosted by best-selling author and entrepreneur Dr. David Powers, where we discuss streams of income, passive income, residual income, and even why there are dinosaurs and zombies in this intro. Fasten your seatbelts and get ready to dive in.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Streams of Income podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you are willing to give me some of your time to listen to either a business lesson or an interview with an amazing entrepreneur. So once again, thank you for listening to the Streams of Income podcast. I hope you enjoyed this episode. All right, folks, we are here with Chris McShanag.
Very good. Yeah, well done.
Good. I always take a chance on massacring a last name on the show, and that way you get the chance to correct it and other people know.
Exactly. It's fantastic. Now, you did a great job, Dave.
Yeah, so if y'all can't tell from Chris's accent, he's from Australia. Where in Australia are you from?
So born and raised in Melbourne, and then grew up in Queensland, and then did some work and stuff in Sydney, so really across the East Coast.
Okay, nice. Because the one time I went to Australia a few years ago, of course, you got to go to Sydney.
Yep.
But then I went south to Canberra and spent some time in the capital and down to the snowy mountains and all that.
Well, fantastic. You know, it's such a funny story. You know, the way we picked our capital city is we couldn't decide between Sydney and Melbourne, so we picked a spot in the middle.
It makes perfect sense.
That's the story. That's how it came to be. So, yeah, now Canberra's a beautiful place, and the Snowy Mountains, I'm so proud of you that you actually have got to the Snowy Mountains, because people don't realize, you know, when you think about Australia, it's the same geographical size as the continental US. Yeah. And about 90% of our population lives 2 hours from the coast. So very few people to get out there. So good for you.
Yeah, I mean, I love doing high points and hitting the high point of a continent. I mean, that's a big deal for me.
Oh, nice. So, yeah, now a good friend of mine has a hotel at Hotham, which is the highest ski location and highest hotel in the country. So you may have even swung by there.
Yeah, we used the chairlift there, and we cheated a little bit getting to the top of the chairlift. But I got a picture in his bathroom, though, the highest altitude toilet in Australia.
There you go. That's probably his place. Good job. What a small world.
Yeah. All right. We better get into some business stuff, or I'll just keep asking you about Australia. But that's, I mean, if you're proud of a place, why not talk about it, right?
Exactly. I love it. I miss it. I miss it a bunch. We get back. As I said, I got a big family. It's about 12 of us. We get back once or twice a year. So we love it.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. So just to force me to segue into the business stuff, what is Virtual Teammate? Give me the quick rundown on exactly what you do.
Certainly. So Virtual Teammate is really born out of a genesis of my kind of passion to help folks really enhance leveraging remote team members for clients. If you think about in the last 10 years, we've 10x'd remote team members. So 10 years ago, 5% of our workforce was remote. Now it's well over 50%. Now, obviously, we had a bump in COVID. But what I'm really on a mission to do is enhance clients leveraging remote team members. And I have teams across the globe, as well as at the same time enhancing virtual teammates working for our clients, trying to provide a living wage so they don't have to travel for work. And so for me, that's really a mission I'm on, because, you know, the world is changing so much. And why I named the business Virtual Teammate is, you know, by the definition of a team, it's a group of individuals working towards a common goal. And our teams are now what I like to refer to as here, near, and far. Here in your office, near, you know, like I'm in Arizona. Where are you at today, Dr. Powers?
I'm in South Carolina.
There you go, South Carolina. So we're near, and then far. I have teams, like I said, across the globe, and they all form one team now to get stuff done. And so I'm really on a mission to do that. And that's what Virtual Teammate's about, providing support for businesses to do what they do best and delegate what we do best.
Yeah, that's amazing, because I've had a VA, and you mentioned teammate. VA is just kind of the term I've always used, but I've gotten to know her so well that I don't even think of her like as an employee now. She's just a friend that helps me. Exactly. I still pay her, but she's perfect. A friend that helps me. That's
fantastic, and that's what you want, right? I mean, we were just talking, right? We just had a very brief conversation, and you're in South Carolina, I'm here, and we actually have mutual friends that are in Australia in Hotham. Like, it's such a small world now, and how do we get that world connected in a society that seems like it's disconnected so much. We're working remotely and virtually.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. The ones I've worked with for a while are in the Philippines, so I'm assuming your teammates are all over the world.
Yeah, so we have about 60-70% of our folks are in the Philippines, and we have teams in Latin America, and then we also have teams in kind of African region.
Okay, that's pretty amazing. And there's a good feeling too of just knowing that not only, I mean, I'm getting the help I need. It helps my business and my family in the long run. But the VA I work with has told me so much about how that's helped her family. She's been able to stay home with her kids. Her husband has quit working and helps her now. And it's pretty amazing.
It's fantastic. I mean, that's really the mission I'm on. As I build this business, I'm kind of focused on this value creation is really what my heart is. And there's material value creation, which of course is hugely important. We want to obviously make money and pay bonuses and stuff. But also there's an emotional value creation, which I think is an untapped value creation. It's about building connectiveness and a culture. And then a spiritual value creation, which is around how do you do something for a greater purpose or power, whether it be helping build communities, like what we're doing, to help provide a living wage so they can stay home and not have to travel, particularly in our healthcare space.
Yeah.
We have worked with over 2,500 virtual assistants, and so many of them previously would have had to travel to the US or Australia or Canada as nurses and then send money back. And so we provide that opportunity where they can stay at home, provide for their family and still be, earn a living wage. So it's fantastic.
Yeah, it is. And just hearing some of the stories about the Philippines, for instance, mine is outside of Manila, and the commute. I mean, they're away from their family 90% of the day anyway. I mean, just working nearby.
Yeah, the average commute's about 2.5 hours one way. And so you think about there's 5 hours out of your day. And our team works the US business hours. So they essentially work the evening shift there. So they're there in the morning when the kids get up. They can spend time with the kids, get them off to school, rest during the day, be there when they get home from school, help them, dinner, homework, things, and then put them to bed and then work. And they normally, outside of that, if they're having to commute, they're not seeing their children or their family at all. Yeah,
pretty amazing. Now, some of the stuff I was reading up on you before I joined in here, it mentions a lot of medical references. And so would that be your biggest demographic that you're trying to reach is medical, or it just happens to be big?
Yeah, so we have experience working with a little over 650 healthcare clients, right? So really small to medium-sized practices, 1 to kind of 5 physicians. We have some really big clinics as well, but on average, that's kind of our group. And so really my passion was, how do I help doctors, dentists, veterinaries, get to do what they do best, take care of patients and buy back some of their time. And we take care of all the back office stuff, insurance verification, eligibility, billing, claims, patient scheduling. So we do it on the healthcare side. On the business side, we help small to medium-sized entrepreneurs grow their business, right? Whether it be in the sales, marketing, customer service, or from a back office perspective, helping them manage their operations in bookkeeping, administrative support, and data entry, data management.
Yeah, that's pretty neat, because just earlier today I was interviewing another podcast guest about franchising, and so he was talking about doctors' offices. I mean, a person goes to med school for all those years, racks up all those student loans. They don't want to do the bookkeeping and the insurance filing and all that kind of stuff. They want to practice medicine. And so you're able to give them help that will free them up to do what they're called to do.
Exactly. So that's the goal, right? I mean, that gives them more time to spend with patients, more time to spend with their family, taking care. And so, we have medical scribes that will be part of the patient visit. They'll update the medical notes real time. The doctor can review, sign off, and then go on. And then they can be the resource that follows up with the patients and follows up on all the necessary things as scheduling.
That's pretty amazing. And just for anybody that's listening to in dealing with the medical field, you might be thinking, well, how do I know they're compliant, all that kind of stuff? But your people, I'm assuming, they're usually medically trained in some way, whether it's transcriptionist or whatever. But also
of our team are nurses, and about 90% of the healthcare trained, and they're all HIPAA certified. We put them through decal HIPAA training, and they adhere to very stringent data privacy policies. And we have strict, monitoring on what they can and can't do.
Yeah. So I mean, it's the same quality you'd get from hiring somebody that's there in the office full time, which is going to cost you more money.
And so, what we've seen, because we obviously have monitoring productivity, our team's about 47% more productive than having somebody in the office. And then you look at that from a cost savings around 60% less cost. Now you're really talking about a game changer. You can get more done with less, for sure.
Yeah, it's amazing. Tell you what, before I forget, how do you want people to get in touch with you if they want to check things out?
So I think the best way to get in touch with us is through our social media channels or on the website. You can go to virtualteammate.com, or we're on all the social platforms. But the best thing is, get on the website, take a look at our offerings, and then book some time to meet either with myself or one of the team members. I'd love to learn. Really passionate about how can I, educate businesses on how to leverage remote team members, because obviously one of our biggest struggles, and that's why I kind of got the business going, was how do you find really good people and retain really good people? And so we take care of that heavy lifting. I like to say we do the $10 tasks that your $100 resources are doing right now.
Yep, exactly. And a lot of my audience is mom and dad entrepreneurs that want to escape W-2 jobs, or if not escape W-2, at least have more time at home. And what I run into with entrepreneurs, we start out doing everything ourselves. When you started this, you were probably doing everything, but the only way to scale is to hire a teammate. And exactly. That's what they need. And so I'm assuming there's options there just for small businesses as well, just to find what they need.
Exactly. Yeah. I would say about 85% of our clients, when they get started, they start with one virtual teammate, and then they grow. About 10% of my clients every month are adding additional teammates to their team. But, just getting started is the key one. And the unique thing about us is we provide dedicated teammates. So it's not like our virtual teammate has multiple clients. It's a one-to-one relationship. And so hence they want to become part of the team, and, they're really dedicated to you. And so we actually specialize in those small to medium-sized entrepreneurs, because what that does allow them to buy back time. And some of your listeners probably have subscribed to the Dan Martell methodology, but just think about how much is your time worth, right? If let's say your $200,000 resource, so that means on average your time is about $100, an hour. So how many of those tasks are $100 tasks, and how many are $10 tasks? And so we work with our clients to delegate those tasks that aren't necessary, right? You can delegate so you can spend more time on what's the highest and best way use of your time.
Oh, it's perfect. And I'll tell you, I usually do this at the end, but you mentioned Dan Martell, so I'll segue into my end question, but we'll stay on and talk more. But I usually ask everybody, what are your top 3 resources you'd recommend for success in life? Not just business, but just in life. Whether it's a person, a book, a podcast, something like that. What would that be for you?
So for me, there's a book I came across called Execute to Win, or My Most Important Number. What I love about that is, if you think about it, winning is fun, and winning in business is even more fun, right? But how do you win? The keep score, right? And so there's always one number above all else that determines if you're winning in the game of business. And so I love that book because it's very simple. I think the best person to have in your life to be successful is a spouse. Picking your life partner is probably the best hire, if you could use that terminology, to have. And then I think the third is really having a big enough why. What is that why? And really what I'm passionate about as I build out this business is leaving a legacy for my grandchildren that, they have the ability to do more. And particularly in the work we do in the healthcare, that we prevent the burnout. There's about a 40% burnout, and you're probably aware of this in the healthcare space. How do I allow, doctors, dentists, nurses to do what they do best and not get burnt out, so they're still around for when my kids come through the system? Yeah,
great. That's perfect. And I was teaching a class yesterday on, I was teaching it to a corporation. It's about wellness. And that was on one of the slides. I had some stats about healthcare workers being such a, I don't know if it's the right word, but a fragile workforce because of all the issues they have to face. And, there's already shortages in certain parts of the healthcare occupation. And so the last thing we want to do is burn them all out and then end up with even more of a shortage.
Exactly. Obviously there's too much burden in the healthcare system today from a ministry side point, let alone, you think about it, it's the only industry I've come across with, service with the hope of payment. It's like me going to the car dealership saying, I'm going to take that car, but I promise I'll come back and pay you. Right? And that's what healthcare is, right? It's credit with the hope of payment. So many doctors, like you said, rack up the debt, and they're not getting reimbursed for the services they provide. So reimbursement is going down, but costs are going up. So how can we help in that area?
Oh yeah. And the insurance bureaucracy keeps getting worse and worse.
Yeah. And the interesting thing is, the insurance business is kind of ahead of the game, right? So interesting to me when my team is working on insurance verification eligibility. Quite often they're speaking with colleagues across the street in the Philippines. And so it's a back and forwards conversation because the insurance companies are leveraging it. I'm really intending to open that capability to, practices clinics so they can have the same abilities.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. And I'm just looking at the bio that I've got on you. So I got a couple of things I want to ask based on that. So the first one, it says the productivity hack entrepreneurs swear by. What would that be?
Productivity. So for me, I think the productivity hack is, like you said, working out how much your time is worth, and then identifying those tasks that aren't the highest and best value to your time. And like you said, hiring the right resource to do those. And for me, I think it's really, taking that, I always look at those 4 Ds, right? There's do, there's defer, there's delegate, and there's delete. And so how do you make sure you kind of focus on the do's, which is the important and urgent items? You think about the Eisenhower matrix as the important and urgent items. Everything people think is everything's urgent and important, but there are certain things that are more important and more urgent, and that's probably the best use of an executive's time. Then there are things that are important, but maybe not as urgent, right? So you can delegate those off to be and deferred and be planned. And then those are that maybe not as important, but very urgent. And so, making sure you have the right resources focused on that. That's probably the biggest productivity hack. And then, of course, getting those things deleted. I mean, we're all inundated with so much information today, but how do you know what's the right actionable information?
Yeah, man, I'll tell you what. So that was do, defer, delegate, delete.
Yes, sir. The 4 Ds.
I'll tell you what, if people could figure out which box to put things in, that alone.
Yeah, I mean, it comes from the Eisenhower matrix, Dwight Eisenhower, when you think about when he had a choice of where he was going to go, and normally he had to make that decision, right? And so evaluating it, it's the same thing we as entrepreneurs and business owners should be evaluating. What's the best attack and what's the best approach based on that criteria?
That's pretty awesome. That's the Eisenhower matrix. I do recall having seen that before, but I've not thought of that in years. It shows you apparently I deferred it too long.
Well, that's okay. But they're important things. I mean, once you get that right, I mean, that just really opens up the productivity.
Yeah. That's pretty amazing. All right. So we've just to give people an idea, because people are, listening to this or watching it and probably going through their minds like, could a VA do this? Or I'm sorry, we'll call them VTs, virtual teammates.
There you go.
Could they do this? Could they do that? So how about just give me a list of some of the main tasks that you see them working on that they can take off the hands?
So if you think about on the business side, like I said, it's really around client communication, front desk support, answering inbound, outbound calls. Think about admin back office support. So preparing, formatting documents, creating presentations, handling, kind of updating your CRM system, finance, bookkeeping, those kind of things. And then you're really on the social media or marketing side, right? Getting responses, engaging with people, really nurturing that client experience are probably some of the key areas. And then for me, where I've seen game changers for our clients on the business side, from an executive assistant perspective, like having somebody manage and support your schedule, your emails is probably the best first hire that I've found with our clients, because that allows you to really buy back time. I mean, we're all inundated with so many different communication channels. How do you get to the right ones? And that's really on the business side. I'd say on the healthcare side, insurance verification is the key one, right? I mean, you're doing all this great work. How do you make sure you get reimbursed? And then billing, making sure you're having somebody manage the denials. It's not the highest and best value use of your medical admin folks in the office or MAs or even nurses in your offices to be doing that. Have our team really focus on that. And, we've got case studies where we've increased, AR by 50%, and shortened the AR window just purely because focused attention, right? When you think about their work in the evening shift, there's no distractions. They're able to focus directly on getting that work done without, other things coming in their plate.
Yeah. See, that's pretty neat.
I've got a resource of 100 tasks that a medical virtual teammate can do and 100 that a business. Happy to share that with you. You can pop it on the podcast for your listeners. That's a resource.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I know people are going to, what I would love is for people to see this or hear this podcast and say, I want to get that list and I'm going to start checking things off that I need help with. And then they come to you and they exactly that. So I forgot where I was getting ready to go with that. So one of the things I've used my VAs for is when something new comes up that I don't know, and to be honest with you, I don't want to learn, like say video editing, because I'm doing more and more on TikTok. I've got a VA that edits this podcast. So when we're done, I'll ship it off to her. So if they're working with you on some other stuff with a teammate, and so they need something new, can they just come back to you and say, hey, I need a video editor? What can we do with that?
Definitely, yeah. I mean, I think, like I said, about 10% of my clients are adding to their portfolio every month. And so we have very broad capabilities. And what I like to do, Dr. Powers, is really understand what's the staffing need or deficiency you have right now. And then what I do is I work with the team to define outcome-based responsibilities, not a job description, but what are the outcomes you want? I want to improve my sales growth, or I want to improve my video editing, or what are the specific outcomes you want? Then I make sure the team has the capabilities to do that. We clearly define the activities, and then we define the KPIs so that there's success, right? It's not like I just give you a warm body and hope it works out. On top of providing a virtual assistant, you get a client success manager whose sole responsibility is to coach not only the virtual teammate, but also to coach the client, right, on how best to leverage their remote team member. And, we have client playbooks and a lot of information that we provide because I want to enhance that experience. That's my one goal. Because if it doesn't go well, then obviously not good for me, but also not good for you, right? And so I want to make sure we maximize your time because that's the productivity that we're looking to achieve.
Okay, see, that solves like the main problem, not really a problem, but just a holdback with my teammates is that I would ask them to do something for me, but I didn't have in mind like a return on investment, anything like that. And of course, they were going to do it for me. Yep. And eventually, though, I'd have to come back and I'd say, what are we supposed to be doing with this? Like, how do I know if it's working? And so some of it was a bit of working back and forth, like us figuring each other out. But I'll tell you what, once we got to know each other, and I mean, my teammates can answer my emails now, and it sounds like me. They can talk to people, and they've just learned my voice and the common phrases I use. And so it's been pretty amazing just once the process gets going.
That's great. Yeah, I mean, I think that, we kind of on top of when we bring somebody into the organization, we're kind of determining what are their behavioral hardwired traits. And so then we make sure we do a good match of that virtual teammate with the client that has the same behavioral traits, right? You might have the right technical skills, but if you don't have the same behavioral traits, then it can be a disconnect, right? You're kind of miscommunicating. So that's a key one for us on the endorsement side and making sure we get a really strong match. So we take a lot of time up front to really understand the need and the individual so we can do a strong match because of that, on average tenure of our team is well over a year. Whereas in the industry, it's normally around kind of 4 to 5 months. And so we've been able to do a really nice job of nurturing that relationship so it retains the employees. Nothing worse than having to change out or switch folks out. Yeah.
See, and I will caveat this for the listeners that all the talk I've been doing about my teammates, they're not from virtual teammates. So if what I'm hearing is any of the issues or just the lags or delays that I had, you kind of iron those out in your selection process and the interviews and everything. And so, I mean, it would save time, which saves money, which makes everything better.
That's my goal. Yeah. And like I said, I really want to enhance the experience of leveraging, virtual teammates, but also enhance the experience of the virtual teammate working for our clients. And so we have kind of a portal and ongoing training and education because it is definitely a two-way street, right? I mean, if you're frustrated and they're frustrated, it's never going to be a strong relationship. And so really investing in both sides has been intentional for me.
Yeah. All right. So let's go backwards a little bit back in time. What got you to virtual teammate? Like from when you were a young kid, what kind of jobs have you had? What brought you all the way to where you are now?
It's a great question. So, for me, I've always had a bit of an entrepreneurial heart. My dad was an entrepreneur at heart. He was in the scrap metal business, which is kind of an interesting one, right? And for me, it was just always interesting to see how he would work. He would take what other people had and turn that into something more. And so I've always had that heart. And I got into the university and I joined IBM and had the blessing of traveling the world and training and doing work. But when I was doing a lot of consulting engagements, one of the big things I recognized was, it was hard to get good people and be productive and get engagement. I since, when I came to the States, as I think I was mentioning before we got on, I came to the States single, told my mum I'd be gone for 3 years. Now I'm well over 30 years and 4 kids and 3 grandkids later. I guess I missed that one. But for me, this is my 5th business. And my focus has always been, how can I give back and how can I help folks be more productive? Initially, I was in the consulting space. I had a couple of consulting companies that I grew and exited. But quite often what I was realizing, particularly in the healthcare space, is I could deploy all this technology. I could give them all the things for meaningful use, but it was taking time away from them being with the patients right there in front of the computer. So, hence virtual teammate is about how do I get you away from the computer with the patients, and our team can take care of it, leveraging the technology and the growth we've had today. So that's really where my heart and passion and how I kind of got to be here was really a growth of first in the asset intensive industry with IBM. And then I'm like, well, healthcare is a need of area. did some consulting there, and then obviously grew it into providing staffing support around the globe.
Yeah. See, one of the reasons I asked that question is, I mean, the old days, like our parents and their parents, if you didn't work 30 years at the same job, you were a loser. Like what's wrong with you? You can't hold down a job. Yeah. And, with us, it's neat to see how we've switched things over the years, but it's always been building, like until we found that perfect thing. Or maybe in your case, like you hit a point now where the technology allows this thing that you feel you've been called to create. And it's just really neat how that works out sometimes.
Yeah, and that's my goal, right? I mean, I think it's now you're empowered. We have such a small world that's so well connected with technology and security and things we can put in place, and you can perform those roles from anywhere, right? Now, instead of being a small to medium-sized business owner, I only could have access to resources in a 20-mile radius. Now I have access to resources globally, and so now I have the ability to tap into a global talent pool to get the best person and leverage labor arbitrage and costs to be able to get that work done. Yeah, awesome. And so my dad's in his late 70s and refuses to retire. So is your dad still working the scrap metal business? No, he sold out of that business. He's enjoying retiring, as he was telling me the other day. And my mom, they're on the SKIN tour, which stands for Spend Kids Inheritance Now, and so they're busy working on taking care of that and enjoying that. My mom and dad are in their mid 80s, and they're just really enjoying life on the Gold Coast and. Yeah, unfortunately, not getting to see as many of their grandkids, or great-grandkids, I should say, but they're really doing the travel thing. They love getting out on cruises and making the most of it.
Yeah, well, I'm glad to hear that, because that's the downside of entrepreneurs when it's in your blood is you just can't retire. You're always going to find something else to do.
Yeah, I think he gives them a hard time on the body corporate and on the HOA board. I think he's like kind of keeping those guys honest, so that keeps him busy for sure. Between that and golf games.
The HOA boards, that could be a full-time job or a full-time fight. Depends on the neighborhood.
Definitely.
Yeah, so
I'm blessed to still have my parents, and they're doing strong. It's the tough thing for us right now is obviously they're so far away and they're super healthy, but their friends are passing away. And I truly believe, as an entrepreneur's heart, you always want to do more, right? And my mom and dad have always been very active, and I think that's a huge thing, right? Your legs are the power to your heart, so staying active.
Absolutely.
Mentally active or physically active, I think it's really important.
Yeah. You got to say. I mean, I love being active, and just my youngest child is 8 right now, and I've got to stay fairly active just to keep up with him. But I want to still play with my grandkids. I mean, so I see too many grandparents that aren't able to. Yeah, no,
that's my biggest why. And I actually have 3 of my grandkids here today, which is kind of interesting. I normally have 2 of them live out in Kentucky. So they're in for my middle grandson's first birthday. So I got to run around with them this morning, which was a treat. They're definitely up and down and around. It keeps you busy.
Yeah, definitely. So as we get ready to close out, any final words, like a life motto, favorite Bible verse, anything like that?
For me, favorite Bible verse is Micah 6:8, right? For me, it's so powerful because it says, seek justice, love mercy, and walk humbly with your God. And that's always been my motto, right? How do you seek justice and love mercy, right? And seek humbly with your God. And so they're really taking that walk, and that's been a blessing for me in the growth of our business and in the growth of our family. I think also, for me, from a business motto perspective, is you can only know if you're winning if you're keeping score. And I think too many businesses today don't keep score and don't think about the value chain, right? Where in the chain is things breaking, and how could you leverage it, whether it be an improved process, technology, or people, right? And in my space, it's really those people. But for those people to be successful, you've really got to be clear on what are the outcomes and the structure you got to put in place and how that ties together. And so that's probably the big one for me. I'm blessed. And like I said, I think your best employee is always your spouse, business partner, if you're an entrepreneur.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because if you get that one wrong, it's, I don't know, it makes everything harder.
It does. It does, because you get,
and you won't enjoy it as much.
It's not a fun game, but it's an exciting game.
Oh, yeah. Yep. And you mentioned, the owners several times, and we need to scale up and all that. One of my favorite business books is The Goal. It's a business fable about constraint theory. And, what's the roadblock in the process? And so if you are the roadblock, I'm talking to the owners right now. If you're the roadblock, you need to hire a teammate, and you need to, get yourself out of the way, hire the perfect team, and then you can scale, or at least spend more time. If you don't want to scale, you have more time at home.
Exactly. Like they say, you want to go fast, go by yourself. You want to go far, go with the team. And so that's
exactly. All right. Well, Chris, I appreciate you being on here with us. And
I appreciate it too, Dr. Powers. It was a pleasure to get to know you. And, in preparation for this, I listened to a couple of your podcasts. I love what you're doing to really help folks kind of think outside the box to really expand.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And I'm going to let you go, though, because I imagine you got grandkids in the house. They're probably on the other side of the camera staring at you, waiting to go outside and play ball or something, or wrestle.
You caught me at a good time. It's kind of nap time, right? So I have some peace and quiet.
Yeah, but you go take a nap, too, while you can.
There you go. Sounds good. I appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
Have a blessed day.
Oh, I know. I promised that was the end. But one last thing, and maybe this can benefit you as well. If you have any suggestions for someone you'd like to see on the podcast, feel free to send me their information or just their name. And if I like the idea, I'll try to look them up myself. But any suggestions, no matter how crazy, no matter how, well, especially if it's cool, well, crazy also, just send me your suggestions. And also, if you want to be on the podcast, get in touch with me. My email, all my contact info is in the show notes. Also, if you don't want to look at the show notes, or you're in your car, maybe you shouldn't look at the show notes while you're driving. It's redteamgoals.com. You can get all my links and everything else there. So let me know your suggestions and tell me more about yourself if you'd like to be on the podcast as well. Thanks again for listening.